April 25, 1983, Hamburg, West Germany. Executives at the prestigious Stern magazine take the stage at a packed global press conference. Before hundreds of journalists, they proudly display 62 bound black volumes. They announce the ultimate historical scoop, the discovery of the secret, handwritten personal diaries of Adolf Hitler, spanning from 1932 to 1945. The media empire confidently declared that modern 20th-century history would have to be entirely rewritten. The announcement triggered an international media frenzy. Stern had already sold the syndication rights to major global publications, including the Sunday Times in London, anticipating massive circulation records. The corporate leadership was insulated by absolute confidence, having secretly invested over 9 million German marks to acquire the archive. But the priceless historical artifacts were a complete physical fabrication. The volumes had never been hidden in a wartime bunker. They were the solo work of a small-time dealer operating out of a messy back room. The architect of the deception was Konrad Kujau, a master forger with a history of minor fraud. Kujau discovered that elite institutions were so consumed by the desire for historical validation and exclusive profit that they would actively abandon their own security protocols. Throughout 1981 and 1982, Stern executives kept the acquisition completely secret, refusing to let independent historians or forensic scientists examine the pages, terrified that rival networks would steal the scoop. They blindly trusted the physical materials because they desperately wanted them to be real. January 14, 1981, Stuttgart, West Germany. Konrad Kujau sits at a cluttered desk, preparing the tools to manufacture modern history. To fool the leading executive minds of Europe, Kujau did not require sophisticated machinery. He relied entirely on corporate blind spots and basic stationery supplies. Kujau weaponized the absolute structural failure of the magazine's internal verification process. Instead of authentic wartime paper, Kujau walked into a local corner shop and purchased dozens of cheap, standard school exercise notebooks. To give the covers a prestigious official appearance, he attached a pair of plastic, antique-looking Germanic initials to the front bindings. In a fatal error, he used the letters FH instead of AH because he did not understand the Gothic font structure, a massive anomaly that corporate auditors completely overlooked. The technical mechanics of the aging process were deceptively primitive. Kujau spent hours handwriting millions of words of mundane historical text, utilizing a basic fountain pen filled with standard black ink. Because modern ink flows differently than wartime formulas, Kujau manipulated the physical evidence after writing. He poured cheap, hot tea bags over the open pages to artificially simulate decades of water damage and paper decay. To accelerate the drying process and force the fresh ink to crack, he baked the school notebooks inside a standard kitchen oven. To the executives in the Hamburg boardroom, the stained, brittle pages looked like authentic relics extracted from a secure vault. April 22, 1983, London, England. The architecture of the deception sustained itself for more than 2 years because the elite media market operated entirely on corporate momentum. The illusion finally fractured when independent British historians were brought in at the final hour to review the translated text for syndication. Lord Dacre, a renowned British historian, initially authenticated the diaries based on the sheer volume of the material. But upon closer inspection, the historical math collapsed. The text contained glaring, repetitive factual errors, directly lifted from a basic book of Hitler's speeches that Kujau had copied word for word. Realizing the vulnerability, Stern was forced to submit 3 volumes to the West German Federal Archives for urgent physical forensic testing. The forensic laboratory completely bypassed the stylistic opinions of literary critics, analyzing the physical baseline chemistry of the paper. The results were terminal. The laboratory discovered that the white paper contained chemical whitening agents that were not invented or used in manufacturing until the year 1954. Furthermore, the threads holding the bindings together contained polyester and viscose, synthetic materials completely unavailable during World War II. The diaries physically could not exist in a wartime timeline. May 14, 1984, Hamburg, West Germany. The criminal fraud trial opens in a federal courtroom. sealing the permanent systemic ruin of a media empire. The exposure of the diaries triggered an immediate, devastating shockwave. Stern magazine's top editors resigned in public disgrace, and the publication's journalistic reputation was permanently dismantled, costing the parent company millions in lost revenue and legal damages. Federal authorities arrested Konrad Kujau, along with Gerhard Heidemann, the gullible Stern reporter who had acted as the middleman, pocketing millions of the magazine's cash along the way. Kujau pled guilty to grand fraud and forgery, receiving a 4.5-year prison sentence. The Hitler Diaries scandal proved that the ultimate vulnerability of a modern media institution is not a complex external data breach. It is a single operator who understands that if an industry values the illusion of a prestigious scoop over physical reality, you can manufacture history right up until the moment the chemistry fails.